6:06 here on WRKO, AM 680, and now on 93.7 HD2. Good morning, Boston. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. Talk about cleaning up the liberal bull. The Kuhner man today is for 4 hours straight is going to be on mega overdrive. All I'm doing is dump, dump, dump. It's bull after bull after bull. 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. You can also text us at 680-680. A lot to talk about locally and nationally. Before I get to some very important national issues, have these people in this state no shame? Mini-me. You phony, you fraud, you. Our esteemed governor, Deval Patrick, is now, I kid you not, on a junket in Israel and the United Arab Emirates. Basically, he's touring the world on our dime. And while he's out of the country, remember when the whole thing with the DCF finally blew wide open with the case of 4-year-old Jeremiah Oliver, whereby this poor boy, after multiple reports that he was being abused in his home by his mother and by her live-in boyfriend, finally DCF was forced to respond and they were called in. And despite multiple, and I mean multiple, documented allegations and documented proof that this boy was being systematically abused and beaten almost on a daily, weekly basis. In the month of September of last year, DCF didn't show up. In the month of October last year, DCF didn't show up. In the month of November last year, DCF didn't show up. Finally, in December, this poor boy's sister has to go not to DCF because they're so unresponsive, because none of the social workers, the managers, the supervisors decided to, follow up and see if this boy was, I don't know, maybe alive, maybe still breathing, maybe still had a head on his shoulders because he was getting whacked day after day after day. She couldn't go to DCF because they wouldn't be bothered. She had to go to her teacher, who then had to go through hoop after hoop just to let DCF know this boy has now been missing for over 3 months. He's gone. And we fear the worst, that this boy is dead. Well, my friends, recently Jeremiah Oliver was found dead and murdered, stuffed in a suitcase by a highway. I want you to think about this as I'm about to tell you the story that broke yesterday. This 4-year-old boy, who never did anything to anyone, innocent as a lamb, was being abused by his mother and by her boyfriend. His parents abused him. His family members abandoned him. And DCF turned their back on this boy when they were told repeatedly, and their own report said, he's living in an extremely abusive home and an environment. So, in the wake of that scandal, with Olga Roche's job on the line, with Mini-Me and Deval Patrick and the entire Democratic administration now taking fire, what does Mini-Me do? He does what politicians always do when they want to get themselves out of trouble. He commissions a, quote, independent review/report. And so he goes to Washington, D.C., and he says, I'm going to get a nonprofit, a Washington-based nonprofit, wink, wink, very liberal, wink, wink, very pro-democratic, wink, wink, very friendly to me and my administration. But it's, quote, independent, unquote. And so the Child Welfare League of America, led by this, to me, this absolutely incompetent woman, Linda Spears, but let that go, conduct a supposed thorough review and investigation. And while that coward is in Israel and the United Arab Emirates, drinking coffee and stuffing his face and hitting the beaches of Israel, having a good time, seeing Jerusalem, doing a little sightseeing, a little tourism, a little vacationing. She then comes out yesterday at a press conference, and to the stunning astonishment, I kid you not, even the liberal media in the state couldn't believe it. Even liberal Democratic legislators up on Beacon Hill, their jaw dropped. She concludes in her independent review, quote unquote, DCF was not responsible for the death of Jeremiah Oliver. Let me repeat that. According to Mini-Me's hand-picked independent review team, they looked into it, they interviewed some people, they talked to people at DCF, they talked to the administration, they passed out a survey, and they said, oh, there are problems at DCF. What are the problems at DCF? Well, not enough technology, they need more iPads, they need more computers, and of course, what do they need? More money. A lot more money that we have to keep funneling in there. Oh, and we need to understand the problems of drug abuse and mental illness and poverty, and we should be spending more money on that. More spend, spend, spend. Tax and spend. Spend, tax, spend. But who's responsible for the death of Jeremiah Oliver? Who dropped the ball? Which supervisors? Which managers? Which top people? Nothing. My friends, what you saw yesterday was a complete whitewash of DCF's responsibility and ultimately, and that was the purpose of this whole thing, of Deval Patrick's responsibility, of Mini-Me's responsibility. Because in the end, let me tell you why this thing was commissioned. It is so obvious. It's like saying the sky is blue. Deval Patrick Mini-Me has presidential or vice presidential ambitions. He has higher aspirations. He's tired now of the job in the governor's office. He's moved on already. He wants to be on the VP ticket in 2016 or maybe run for the presidency in 2020. And he knows that DCF will haunt him for the rest of his career. In fact, as I said at the rally to free Justina Pelletier, I said, Mini-Me, God forbid if Justina should die under the watch of DCF, I will hound you on media outlet after media outlet. I will chase you around the entire country. If I have to, I'll go on Fox, I'll go on CNN, I'll do op-ed after op-ed, but I will never let you off the hook. And he knows that Jeremiah Oliver could derail his entire political aspirations and his future political ambitions. So what does he do, that little snake, that little fraud? He commissions a bogus report to whitewash his responsibility and that of DCF. To wash his hands. So when he runs in the future, you can already see the line. You can already see the narrative, the spin. We had an independent investigation. Top people from Washington, D.C. And they looked at it, child welfare advocates, and they said there were some problems at DCF. But ultimately, DCF was not responsible for not only the death of Jeremiah Oliver, but for all of the other children who passed away.
We did not conclude that DCF was responsible for Jeremiah Oliver's death or that DCF could have prevented the tragic outcome for this little boy.
That's Linda Spears, yesterday at a press conference. She's part of the Child Welfare League of America. Basically, the one who's doing the dirty deed on behalf of Mini-Me. Basically washing the hands of Pontius Pilate as he now seeks higher office. No, DCF did not murder Jeremiah Oliver, obviously. No, DCF did not abuse Jeremiah Oliver. The mother and the boyfriend are now have been indicted. Charges have been pressed for child abuse. Charges for possible murder are pending. But you're going to tell me with a straight face, even Bob DeLeo, for God's sakes, even the House Speaker couldn't believe it. Even Bob DeLeo. Here, let me read to you in today's Globe, okay? This is not Jeff Kuhner now. I know what all the libs automatically the moonbats. Oh, this is Jeff Kuhner now. Oh, right-wing extremist, the teabagger, suicide bomber. He's going after Mini-Me. Why is he going after Mini-Me? We have such a beautiful state here. We have a liberal utopia. So what kids are dying? Don't mention it, Jeff. Jeff, don't mention it. Jeff, let it go. Kids die, people die. Don't disrupt our liberal utopia. Here is Bob DeLeo. Okay, Bob DeLeo. Speaker Robert A. DeLeo also questioned the findings, saying the social worker, supervisor, and manager who failed to ensure timely checks on the boy's family were, quote, somewhat complicit, unquote, in failing to protect the little boy, Jeremiah Oliver. You think, Bob, no, they were somewhat, you think, Bob, not showing up for over 3 months. You think, when you know this kid is being abused and getting his head smashed through a wall almost on a daily basis, beaten up black and blue. You think maybe DCF, no, come on, Bob, they're somewhat complicit, maybe just a little, just a teeny, Bob, just a teeny. What this governor to me, and I'm choosing my words very carefully, is amoral. I honestly believe the elevator does not go to the top. I believe when you look at how many children under DCF alone have died, gone missing, or my God, just last week, raped. 9-year-olds being raped, 10-year-olds being raped under the watch of DCF. And for him to not take responsibility, for him not to thoroughly clean house and say there is a culture at DCF that is profoundly dysfunctional and sick and perverse, utterly incompetent, and it's at the top leadership. But instead, to put his political ambitions and his political career ahead of getting justice and the truth for Jeremiah Oliver, Ariana Levin, she was 1 month old. Bailey Irish, she was barely 2 weeks old. My God, they're little babies dying under the care and supervision of DCF. And you send off that flack, that hack, that no talent fraud, Linda Spears, to stand there with the chutzpah. We don't hold DCF responsible. We don't hold Mini-Me responsible for nothing. Because he's Mini-Me. My friends, the regime knows that this state and this regime, this administration, is a mafia state. It is a gangster regime that is rotten to the core. And whether it be the drug lab scandal, whether it be over 64 people dying because of the New England Compounding Center scandal, whether it's now nearly 140 kids dead or missing under DCF, this is at the feet of Mini-Me and at the utter criminal and incompetent leadership in the state. He thinks he can whitewash it. He can't. Mini-Me, why don't you stop your junkets overseas and why don't you come home and stare at the family members of Jeremiah Oliver and Irish Bailey and Andriana Levin and all the other families that have their children have died under the care of DCF, and you tell them to their face, look at them in the eye, you coward, whether DCF doesn't share responsibility for their deaths. Don't run to Israel. Don't run to the United Arab Emirates. Don't run to the Arabs and the oil sheiks to line your pockets. Come here and face the children that you and your administration have betrayed. 617-266-6868 is the number. Let me ask all of you this, Boston. What do you make of yesterday's report? Do you agree with Linda Spears? Do you agree with the report's findings? that DCF bears no responsibility for the death of Jeremiah Oliver? Was it a whitewash, as I say? 617-266-6868. All of your calls next.
We don't know what happened at the day of his death. We don't know what happened at the time of his death. We don't know who was around. So given those things, we are not in a position to say that it was DCF's fault that this child died.
Well, if that social worker had done their job and the supervisors had done their job, I mean, that was a major failure. So it's quite possible his death could have been prevented if they were checking on him.
Well, you have to remember, too, that a once-a-month visit is not a 24-hour-a-day parent. We're not saying that the department is off the hook. Please understand me. What we're saying is that there is not proof that the department is on the hook.
There's not proof that the department DCF is on the hook. So I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, we're talking about a dead child here, but this is so outrageous. I mean, it's almost comedic. So even I told you, the liberal reporters were like, well, come on. What are you talking about? By the way, hat tip Fox 25. That was their package. Very nice job they did. They're like, what are you talking about? Had they just checked in once a month, they would have seen the kid's missing. Or maybe he's about to go missing, or the situation has escalated out of control. Now, yes, the parents are ultimately to blame. There's no question about it. But you're the Department of Children and Families, your mission, why we pay your salaries, why so much. Hey, $16 million goes from us to you to protect the children, the most vulnerable children. That's our taxpayer money. That's what we're paying you for. So, yes, visiting once a month, you would notice, where's Jeremiah? Where's little Jeremiah? Where's the little boy? Or if he's there, how come the abuse is getting out of control? It's escalating. Look at the marks, look at the bruises, look at the black eyes. We got to take him out of this situation. So my question to you is this, my friends. Linda Spears, whitewashing for Mini-Me, hoping now to set up Deval Patrick in 2016 or 2020, is now saying he's not responsible, Olga Roche is not responsible, and DCF is not responsible. That basically DCF is not a 24-hour parent. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868 is the number. You can also text us at 680-680. This is from 978. Jeff, if this was a white Republican governor, he would have been fired in caps by now. Yes, 978. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. This is from 774. Jeff, you can rest assured that if the child was in your custody and something awful happened, that you would be held responsible and would pay the price. Oh, I know. That's the double standard. They don't hold themselves up to the standards that they want to hold to us. Different, one set of standards for them, a whitewash, and a different set of standards for us. This is from 781. Jeff, does this mean Olga Roche is reinstated? Could be, 781. But could be. She comes out looking, smelling like a rose in this report. John, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Good morning, Mr. Kuhner. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you, John?
I'm very well, thank you. You know, what occurred here is this panel, this company, decided to make themselves a grand jury and apply standards of grand jury findings to their report, which is absolutely absurd. So I called to the state treasurer and the AG to not pay this bill. Any money that has been put down on this bill should be returned to the taxpayers of Massachusetts. This is absolutely absurd. It's just how they come to this conclusion is obviously ridiculous. If you're an irresponsible parent and you let your child roam the streets at nighttime and a drunk driver runs that child over, you're certainly not responsible for that child being run over by the car, but you are most definitely responsible for not supervising your child. And I would suggest emphatically that the criminal justice system of Massachusetts would assure that subsequent to the investigation taking place. This is absolutely a travesty. How this could ever have been even permitted to be made public. It's not a coincidence that it happened while the governor was out of the country. I'm sure he had a copy of the report last week before he left. That's why his office came out with that little, almost like a mea culpa on Friday before he left, saying, about Justina Pelletier, because they know that they're on the hook for all this junk.
John, as usual, very good call. Do you know how much this whitewash report cost us? We paid for it. $150,000. To all the taxpayers of Massachusetts, from the mini-me to all of you, blank you. Dave, Tony, Kevin, Lucy, Brenda, hang on. I promise all of your calls after this very short news break.
What I can say is they let that child down. They may have put that child in a position that child should not have been put in.
Even House Speaker Bob DeLeo, even Porky Pig, cannot believe the results of yesterday's findings, by the way, paid for by us, $150,000, to whitewash the responsibility of DCF and Mini-Me for the death of Jeremiah Oliver and the nearly 140 children under his administration that have either died or gone missing under the watch of DCF. And so, as this report came out, knowing that there was going to be a whitewash, knowing that even Democrats were going to be livid, because it's so obviously ridiculous and false and misleading, even the liberal media is stunned at the lack of accountability and responsibility. Where's Mini? He's off to Israel and later the United Arab Emirates. He's having a good time. He's stuffing his face with falafel, with hummus, maybe having a little shawarma, I don't know, maybe he's going to hit a bar mitzvah. What the hell? I mean, for Mini-Me, if you're going to do a world tour on our dime, go all the way, Mini-Me. I'd say, here, by the way, here's Soviet Commissar John Polanowitz, on Deval. And by the way, Polanowitz is the guy that doesn't want to let Justina Pelletier go. He's the guy, the Polanowitzes, I know his kind. They were the ones in Poland when the Soviets invaded that welcomed the Russians when they invaded Poland. Those are the ones that licked the boots of power. So in Poland, they served their Soviet masters. Here, Polanowitz serves Mini-Me.
The governor has been involved in this process from the very beginning, with CWLA involved at different steps in the process.
I certainly think that they should have planned that.
He's been involved in every step of the way, and then the report was going to come out whitewashing him, and he's off to Israel, stuffing his face with falafel and hummus. 617-266-6868. I just, for Mini-Me's sake, easy on the shawarma and the falafel. You can put on a lot of weight, Mini-Me. Lucy, I don't want to see you blow your waistline. Lucy, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go.
Good morning, Jeff. 2 points.
Sure.
If that was Duval Patrick's grandchild, how would he feel? And another thing, he should be picking up the $150,000.
I mean, why are we paying for this?
Yeah, why are we paying for it?
Excellent point, Lucy. Thank you for that call. Brenda, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on WRKO. Go ahead, Brenda.
Right before I went to bed, I heard that report, and I said an expletive, and my 18-year-old said, and you tell me not to talk like that. And I said, I'm just about ready to blow my lid. It's like this. Blah, 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 blah. The same bleep, different day. This social worker created an open door to increase the abuse so that we have a beautiful, precious child found dead in a blanket on the side of a road. And then they have this phony baloney report, all right? And they have it both ways. We're not saying that they're on the hook, but we're not saying that they're off the hook. It's the same thing. Reckless endangerment is what I call it. If you left your kid in a car, and I unfortunately have experience from this many, many years ago, and I'm not going to get into it, that is what happens, and that is what you are accused of. Reckless endangerment when you leave a child in a car, and you should be. And that is what has happened here. This social worker did not do her job. Yes, they're ultimately responsible, the mother and the live-in boyfriend, but because she made the decision to not go, this was like open season for Jeremy Oliver. It's as if you it's as if you, let me see, you decide to leave your child, like with a pedophile. You know that this person's a nut job, and you leave your house, and you know what? I think I'm going to go do an errand and leave you alone with this person. Hello?
Yeah, for 3 months. For 3 months.
For 3 months.
And then the child ends up dead, stuffed in a suitcase.
Right.
And then I say, Brenda, you're not on the hook. You're not off the hook. I don't know what you are. I mean, I don't mean to laugh, but honestly, it's just it's so ridiculous.
They're consistently inconsistent. This is liberalism. It's an ideology of contradictions. You try to have it both ways. At the end of the day, we have a dead child. You know, I don't have time to get to the bathroom, but pretend I'm flushing the toilet. Flush the toilet, and there's $150,000 down the toilet. You know, we have a dead child. We have a social worker that didn't go and do his or her job, creating that open window. It's like a holiday for these people. Like, yeah, the social worker isn't coming. So you know what? We can have a holiday with this child. And Jeremy Oliver is dead, and I am PO'd.
Bingo. You nailed it. Look, honestly, I'm serious. That $150,000 for that whitewash report. I don't mean to be gross. I swear to you, God is my witness. I'm honest to you as if I'm in the confessional. It would be more productive to the citizens of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts if I gave any one of you, here's $150,000 in whatever, $50 bills. Use it as toilet paper. If you wiped your rear end, forgive me, if you wiped it and flushed it down the toilet, say, okay, at least you had the thrill of having a $50 bill wipe your rear end. Fine. I swear, at least one citizen had a thrill. It would be more productive than having this bogus I gotta be careful. BS of a report. Kevin, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff, on Saturday, your lovely wife, Grace, asked me about the report. Why did they hold it up, the report? And I says, I just cannot get in to their mythology of what they're thinking about. And that was my answer at the time. On the way home, I get to be thinking, of course, why they held this report and postponed it, because they knew that we would scrutinize it. And I can't even believe we called this report that is so superficial. I looked it up last night, and I couldn't believe it. It's just the same old talking points. Oh, yeah, we need more funding, more heads out there, more social workers. The whole Department of Children and Families is so plagued from lack of certified social workers all the way down to now having a person from the Division of Motor Vehicles, and how they label the report. Boy, I mean, is it one child? Is it plural? Are we talking about Jeremiah Oliver? You got to go down into the report. It is so pretentious. It just kills me. And from Deval Patrick on another junket, here it is today, is a dangerous day for all of us. It's commencement at Harvard. When they release these new people into the world that are supposed to be smarter than you and I, Brenda, Johnny, and everybody combined, it is just so sad, the direction of where we're going. For our tax dollars to go for such a report, such an assessment of this whole department and one particular situation of that boy out in Framingham that was ignored, and they didn't even know month after month after month. Like I said 2 weeks ago, I need the same psychologist that meet the depressed that David Gregory has.
Thank you. Thank you for that call, Kevin. Look, to Mini-Me's people, because I know they listen to this show, tell Mini-Me while he's still in Israel to make sure he tries the tahini. I hear the tahini is phenomenal. Put it on some peanut bread and it's delicious. Have a good time, Mini-Me. Now, the $150,000. Kevin, you touched on it. It was all of Mini-Me's and the Democrats' talking points. Every single one of them. We need more money, outdated technology. Maybe some people could have done their job a little bit better, but hey, kids die. I mean, that's just life. Kids die. So maybe more iPads, more funding, more computers, maybe more iPhones. Here's what I think happened. Okay. $150,000. It's not our money. What do we care? $150,000. Ding, ding, ding. Linda. Hi. Linda, hey, it's me. Oh, Governor, nice to hear from you. I need a whitewash report. Basically saying I'm not responsible, DCF, Olga Russia. Nobody's responsible. Can you do that for me? Well, writing a report, it takes time consuming. How about $125,000? And then $25,000 for the survey questions and for some of your friends? Does $125,000, is that worth your while for 3-4 months to save my political bacon? For that, no problem. $150,000 of our money flushed right down the toilet. 617-266-6868. Tony, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? Tony.
Good, thanks. Before I get to Mini-Me, I'd like to just make a quick observation. What is it with the governors of Massachusetts that seem to think there's some sort of foreign policy specialist? If it's not Mitt Romney jaunting down a Gitmo to give his advice on how to run a terrorist prison, we've got Mini-Me off in Israel giving his advice on what? I don't even understand what he's doing there. But that being said... How
to cover up dead children, Tony.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's it. Typical Democrat, look like you're doing something when you're not really doing anything, and that gives the appearance of that you're trying hard. But my point is, Jeff, I don't think any of us have to worry about Mini-Me ever attaining any sort of significant higher office, president, vice president. His deplorable record of leadership in this state, I mean, he's got his tank, he's got his Willie Horton 10 times over. If a guy like Dukakis couldn't make it with the scandals he was involved in, there is no way a guy like Deval Patrick, anyone's going to even want to touch him as a running mate, much less attain presidency on his own. I don't think we have to worry about it. The most he can hope for is some side hallway plushy office in Washington somewhere overseeing a bowl of marbles or something.
Tony, thank you for that call. Look, I agree with you. He thinks he whitewashed it. When you even have House Speaker Bob DeLeo, David Linsky, another prominent Democrat. I mean, it's not just Jeff Kuhner. So you've got David Linsky, he's the chairman of the House Committee on Post-Audit and Oversight, overseeing DCF. He's like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? DCF doesn't bear responsibility? So when you even have powerful Democrats saying this report's a joke. But can't you see it? It's so obvious, isn't it? We had an independent review and found that nobody with DCF wasn't responsible. I wasn't responsible. Been there, done that. That was behind us. Those allegations were addressed. You can already see the spin for him running in 2016 and 2020. That's why he wanted this report. That's why he commissioned it. And he doesn't even have the guts to face the media. So now he's running off, stuffing his face on falafel and tahini in Israel. Nancy, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Hey, Jeff, this is not about the children because, liberals believe in abortion and liberals believe in this DCF scandals not being, it's nobody's fault. If these kids were killed with a handgun, oh my God, the backlash. The NRA, it would be on every news loop for 15 times a day. That's all we would hear about is how the NRA is responsible.
You did it. Nancy, you did it. I did it. We did it. We all have blood on our hands, Nancy.
Exactly. Every responsible gun owner would be responsible. But because they were in DCF custody, in custody of the state, well, no responsibility there. But if you and I, if one of our child had picked up a handgun and shot themselves, oh my God, the backlash. Everybody would be, every gun owner and the NRA and everybody would be responsible except for this whole thing is just making me crazy because as a mother, I would want the DCF to monitor if there was a problem in my house because I love my children. But these people, they don't care about the children. If they cared, somebody's feet would be held to a fire right now.
Nancy, please call back again. Bing, honestly, you nailed it. I mean, you hit the nail right on the head, Nancy. Dave, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, Dave.
You there, Jeff?
Yep, you're on the air, Dave. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing good. Hey, listen, number one, forget the hook. Get the whole anchor out and put everybody on the anchor. Just sink it into Boston Harbor someplace. But leave our $9 million alone for his new office. This whole thing stinks.
No, Dave, they're not on the hook. They're not off the hook, Dave. So I don't know. What are you? Dave, honestly, if you're not on the hook and you're not off the hook, I don't honestly, Dave, what are you? I don't understand. What are you? In suspended animation? Where are you? Levitating? You're in the middle. Where are you?
I don't know, dude. But I know one thing. This whole thing's ridiculous, and it should have never happened. And they still ain't got the video of whoever put the suitcase on the side of the highway there and everything else. And they haven't released that report about the suitcase. This poor kid was only 4 years old, give or take. And, I mean...
Dave, they haven't even filed murder charges yet. They still haven't even tracked down who they think. Obviously, suspicion is on the mother and the boyfriend. This poor kid. Where's justice for Jeremiah Oliver? 617-266-6868. Let's take it to Rush. Roll it, Brittany.
We don't know what happened at the day of his death. We don't know what happened at the time of his death. We don't know who was around. So given those things, we are not in a position to say that it was DCF's fault that this child died.
Well, if that social worker had done their job and the supervisors had done their job, I mean, that was a major failure. So it's quite possible his death could have been prevented if they were checking on him.
Well, you have to remember, too, that a once-a-month visit is not a 24-hour-a-day parent. We're not saying that the department is off the hook. Please understand me. What we're saying is that there is not proof that the department is on the hook.
It's not on the hook. It's not off the hook. I'm not saying the person's a virgin. I'm not saying the person's not a virgin. I'm not saying anything. 6:59 here on the great WRKO. Enrique, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go ahead, Enrique.
Good morning, Jeff. How are you?
I'm good. How are you, Enrique?
All right. Hey, let me summarize my independent review. Incompetence. Let me summarize my recommendation. Dismantle the whole agency and start from scratch.
Enrique, I love you in a non-homosexual way, Enrique. You just summed it up in 20 seconds.
Exactly. And, the agency shouldn't be off the hook on this situation. They are responsible for the well-being of those children. And how many children are dead already? How many more have to die before the agency is responsible? Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you, Enrique. They're incompetent. Systematic incompetence. Dismantle DCF. Enrique, you nailed it. Comrade John, how you are, comrade?
Wunderbar. DCF, Duvall's criminal family. All right, Jeff, here it goes. This is the call out to the other 136 families that are missing kids. Where are you? Why were you not at the rally? Are you being paid off? Are you still receiving your checks? Are you on crack and heroin? Because if I was involved in this directly, I would be all over the airwaves. This is how sick this is, Jeff.
Thank you for that call, Comrade John. I mean, honestly, where are the other parents? It's time to speak out. 7 o'clock on the great WRKO. Coming up next, the Dare leader delivers a major foreign policy speech in front of the cadets at West Point. And I got to tell you, even the liberals weren't happy with the Dear leader yesterday. I've got that story. Don't touch that dial. Let's take it to Angela in the newsroom.
News at the top and bottom. Talk in between.
Wow, that's an interesting new take on this.
This is AM 680 WRKO, Boston.
7:07 here on the great WRKO, AM 680, and now on 93.7 HD2. Hour 2 of the Kuhner Report, 617-266-6868. You can also text us, 680-680. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, cleaning up the liberal bull, round 2. The bulldozer almost crashed because there was so much bull from the first hour dealing with that report. Well, now it's the bull from Obama's speech yesterday. The bulldozer's going to need some repairs afterwards. But anyway, after the show. But let that go. All right, so the dear leader, President Barack Hussein Obama, has been under increasing fire, not just from conservatives, not just from Republicans, but from the op-ed pages of the New York Times, the op-ed pages of the Washington Post, from many members in his own party, especially Senate Democrats, who look around the world and say America is in retreat, America is in decline, that Obama is weak, and his foreign policy has been utterly ineffective. And so, in response to his critics, the dear leader went to West Point and addressed a graduating class of 2014. And he and the administration, his cronies, billed it as a, quote, philosophical speech, unquote. The dear leader now wasn't going to get partisan, wasn't going to get pragmatic. He was now going to give us the philosopher, the anointed one, the intellectual, the brilliant Obama, the Professor Obama. He was going to lay out, allegedly, a grand foreign policy vision for the United States going into the future. And before I get to the actual substance of the speech, what I found incredible is how petty, narcissistic this man is. These are graduates who are going to be future officers. They have trained for 4 years, grueling training to defend this country from our enemies abroad. It is their day. It is a special day. And you pick that site? You pick that event to go on and take on your critics? And that's why throughout almost the entire speech, even CNN, even MSLFBC, even the libs in the media could not believe the icy reception, the cold reception that the dear leader received yesterday. Most of the cadets hardly clapped throughout the entire speech. In fact, most of them sat on their hands. Because they're looking at this guy and they're saying, we're being trained to go to war. We're being trained to fight and die for our country. And you're here to score cheap political points? To settle scores with your critics in the media? And in the Democratic and Republican Party? How low, how petty can you get? But let that go. So yesterday was Obama's grand foreign policy speech. This was now the Obama doctrine for America. And what was the essence of his speech? That in the end, America is to blame for most of the problems in the world. That in the end, it is America that he claims flouts international law. That it's America, he says, that has double standards in its foreign policy. That it's America, he says, that now must confront the great threat of the 21st century. And what is the great threat of the 21st century, my friends? According to the dear leader, I swear to you, is it radical Islam? Yet. Is it a resurgent China? Yet. Is it Iran on the verge of a nuclear bomb and maybe a second Holocaust in the Middle East? Yet. Climate change. The hoax and fraud of climate change. And America now must lead on the world stage on behalf of climate change. Because climate change now threatens the entire planet. The entire planet is going to heat up because of climate change. And yes, he says America must lead on the world stage, but even then, we must now become a transnational country. We must now subsume America under the United Nations and under NATO, what he calls, quote, multilateralism. In other words, we are no longer a sovereign nation. We are no longer an independent nation. We are no longer a nation that is there to pursue our national interests to serve the American people. Instead, we are to be essentially the global police. The world's policemen, chained by international institutions, chained by the United Nations, chained by the European Union, chained by NATO. And so my question to the dear leader is this. That's what we've been doing now for 5.5 years. How's that working out for us? You put into words what you've been doing now for the last 5.5 years. How's that work? You insist that radical Islam is not a serious threat. Iran is now on the verge of a nuclear bomb. The civil war in Syria has cost 160,000 dead. And what is his response? Now the administration is openly saying they want to arm the Islamist-filled rebels in Syria. Basically Al-Qaeda. Libya, which you got us into that war with NATO, with the UN, is literally now falling apart. It has now become an Islamist stronghold. Al-Qaeda runs Libya. China, under your leadership, now menaces its neighbors in Asia. Ask Ukraine how your multilateralism is working out. Ask Putin if he fears America or fears you on the world stage. Everywhere we look, my friends, American power is in retreat. We have no more influence or credibility on the world stage, and every single one of our enemies, North Korea, China, Iran, Russia, radical Islam, I could go on and on, are on the march. And this same man, if you remember in 2009, when he visited Europe, then he was riding high. Then his poll numbers were high. Then he had just been elected. He was the Messiah. He was the anointed one. As he told the European people, I am not a citizen of America. I am a citizen of the world. Was asked about American exceptionalism and said, oh, America, it's exceptional. The way Greece is exceptional. The way Italy is exceptional. The way China is exceptional. We're no different than any other country. There's nothing special. Yeah, they're exceptional. We're exceptional. It's sort of like Linda Spears. We're on the hook. We're off the hook. I'm not saying you're on the hook. I'm not saying you're off the hook. I'm not saying they're not exceptional. I'm not saying we're not. I'm just saying everybody's exceptional, which means nobody's exceptional. But now he's got a midterm election. Now he's going to get politically wiped out in November. Now the Democrats are going to get hammered. So all of a sudden, 4 years ago, we were not exceptional. But listen to the dear leader. Now, with every fiber of my being, we are now an exceptional nation. Roll it, Brittany.
You see, American influence is always stronger when we lead by example. We can't exempt ourselves from the rules that apply to everybody else. We can't call on others to make commitments to combat climate change if a whole lot of our political leaders deny that it's taken place. We can't try to resolve problems in the South China Sea when we have refused to make sure that the law of the Sea Convention is ratified by our United States Senate, despite the fact that our top military leaders say the treaty advances our national security. That's not leadership.
No.
That's retreat.
That's retreat. Hold it right there, Britain. Hold it right there. Hold it right there. First of all, this law of the sea treaty, which, by the way, will destroy American sovereignty, has been sitting in Congress, I'm not kidding, since the early 1980s. This guy's acting yesterday like somehow it's this new initiative that he just proposed 6 months ago. It's been sitting there for 30 years. You know why it's been sitting there for 30 years? Because Republicans and Democrats don't want it. They don't want to sign it. You know why? because it's a horrible deal. Now, he goes on about, again, climate change. Look at the obsession with green social. Climate change, climate change, climate change. Even though it's a fraud, it's a hoax, it'll destroy the American economy, but let that go. He says, we can't exempt ourselves. What have you been doing for the last 5.5 years? All you do is exempt yourselves. Obamacare, 30 exemptions. You have run roughshod over Congress on issue after issue after issue. No man, all of your policies are circumventing the Senate, the advice and consent role of the Senate. You have been acting like a military wannabe dictator since you got into power the last 5.5 years. What rule of law? You pick and choose whatever you want to enforce. Now you lecture the world on the rule of law? And let's get to the heart of the matter, and then I'll continue with his speech. You lecture the world on democracy and openness when you are conducting a police state here in the United States of America through the NSA, which is the greatest violation of the Constitution since we interned Japanese Americans in World War II? We are spying on Americans every day. Your government is. Your regime is. And you're going to lecture the world on us being an example? What example? You're turning us into a socialist dictatorship. But it gets, my friends, trust me, now it gets even better. Now, all of a sudden, just in time for November, he's an exceptionalist. He's an American exceptionalist. Roll it, Britain.
That's not strength. That's weakness. It would be utterly foreign to leaders like Roosevelt and Truman,
yep,
Eisenhower and Kennedy.
Yep.
I believe in American exceptionalism with every fiber of my being. But what makes us exceptional is not our ability to flout international norms and the rule of law. It is our willingness to affirm them through our actions.
Yep. Hey, look at it. Look at the applause. Look at the applause. Look. Look at it.
And that's why I will continue to push to close Gitmo. Because American values and legal traditions do not permit the indefinite detention of people beyond our borders.
Look at this. Look at this. Look at this.
That's why we're putting in place new restrictions on how America collects and uses intelligence.
Oh.
Because we will have fewer partners and be less effective if a perception takes hold that we're conducting surveillance against ordinary citizens. America does not simply stand for stability or the absence of conflict, no matter what the cost. We stand for the more lasting peace that can only come through opportunity and freedom for people everywhere.
Yeah, blah, 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 blah. Okay, all right, look. In other words, now look, notice. This was a packed house. They were like, I guess I gotta clap. They can't stand the guy. Now, if the NSA is such a violation of civil liberties, which it is, get rid of it, root and branch. Don't give me your little dinky, phony reforms. Don't stand there and lecture the world when we're spying on our own citizens. My friends, it was obvious from the crowd yesterday. The cadets don't respect them, the military doesn't respect them, and my friends, the world doesn't respect them. And all of his speechifying and all of his empty platitudes can't change that fact. 617-266-6868. What did you make of the president's speech? I want to hear from you. All of your calls next.
America must always lead on the world stage. If we don't, no one else will. The military that you have joined is and always will be the backbone of that leadership. But U.S. military action cannot be the only or even primary component of our leadership in every instance. Just because we have the best hammer does not mean that every problem is a nail. And because the costs associated with military action are so high, you should expect every civilian leader, and especially your commander-in-chief, to be clear about how that awesome power should be used.
Welcome back to the Kuhner Report, 726 here on the great WRKO. Let me ask all of you this, because it seems to me very clear that Obama is a leftist, liberal, one-world imperialist. He believes in a new world order, where American power and American might and American influence is essentially subsumed under the United Nations, NATO, and other international institutions. But in the end, he says it. He's naked about it. We must lead the world. If we don't, no one else will. First of all, that's not true. The Chinese are starting to lead the world. The Russians are starting to lead the world. Radical Islam is now having a lot of influence around the world, but let that go. George Washington warned us to mind our own business. We are a republic. Our greatest national security threat right now is our border. Our greatest national security threat is this man in the White House. It's that $17.5 trillion debt that threatens to destroy this country and its very economic foundations. And instead, this man wants us to now be playing global cop, where we're now suddenly the world's policeman, sticking our nose with the UN, with NATO, with other institutions in every corner of the world. We are a republic, not an empire. And those boys that he was addressing yesterday have pledged to defend the Constitution and to defend America's national interests, not to die for Obama's New World Order. 617-266-6868. Should we be the world's policeman? What did you make of Obama's speech? Jim, apparently you were there, correct?
Yep, that's correct. I was there. I'm a former Army officer. I was there to swear in a new young cadet yesterday. And what I expected from our commander-in-chief was a rousing speech to motivate our finest young new officers into action in their first assignment. And what I heard was a laundry list of political talking points. It was a rambling speech that lasted for over an hour, and it was like suffering through somebody reading the grocery list. It was embarrassing, and I thought it was completely inappropriate for the venue and for the occasion.
Jim, how did the other cadets react? I mean, you could tell the applause was icy. I think at one point there was like one or two people in the entire crowd clapping. What did the cadets say afterwards?
It was, I'll tell you what I was interested to see how the crowd would, how they would respond. As a former military guy myself, and all the military families there, I was really interested to see how people would respond when the president came. And he strode into the stadium through a line of cadets that were saluting him, and he had sort of this, this attitude in his step. You could just kind of tell. It was like, he was kind of a cocky attitude as he walked in. And there were a few people that provided polite applause, but I was shocked at how quiet the stadium was. I mean, I was looking around and everybody else was looking at each other, and it was very quiet, respectful, but very quiet. And then as he spoke, there were very few people that clapped. There were sort of pockets of Obama supporters scattered throughout the crowd of maybe 30,000 people or so, but it was very quiet for the most part.
Jim, what was it that he said that most turned off or offended the cadets?
Well, I think, as you mentioned, these young cadets are interested to support the Constitution of the United States and our interests abroad. And the president seemed to be focused on the international community, on working through the UN. He brought up points about the International Monetary Fund and how he was most appropriate about, or how he was most proud of that. And the thing that made my head explode is when he went off on this global warming bit. You know, I mean, how inappropriate for that venue and for that time to be talking about this global warming nonsense. My wife had to, like, restrain me in my seat.
So basically, he was there to push one world government and to have Americans die for the United Nations.
Yes, and then he got off on this tangent about sending advisors into Syria, and to advise what? We have no clue who the enemy is. You know, who is Al-Qaeda? Who is on the side of Syria? We have no idea who these people are. And he's talking about sending advisors and arms into Syria, and I know it's going to happen. Just like what happened in Afghanistan before. We're going to have those arms we sent there used against us. This guy has no clue what he's talking about.
Jim, thank you so much. Jim, call anytime you want, my friend.
Thanks a lot.
You're always welcome on the Kuhner Report. Thank you for that call, Jim. 617-266-6868. If no one else in the media has the guts to say it, I'm going to say it. The President of the United States takes an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. By him kowtowing to the UN, by him calling for one world government, he's a traitor. That speech yesterday was the speech of a traitor. You saw treason yesterday, my friends, and that's why the cadets weren't clapping, because they could see it for themselves. 7:32 on the great WRKO. More with your calls next. Let's take it to Angela in the newsroom.
Class of 2014, I congratulate you on taking your place on the long gray line. But the world is changing with accelerating speed. This presents opportunity, but also new dangers. It will be your generation's task to respond to this new world. The question we face, the question each of you will face, is not whether America will lead, but how we will lead. Not just to secure our peace and prosperity, but also extend peace and prosperity around the globe. Here's my bottom line. America must always lead on the world stage. If we don't, no one else will.
7:40 here on WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer, the dear leader yesterday, almost putting the cadets to sleep. Some of them were kind of nodding off, and they had to be like, with an elbow, a little, hey, Charlie, come on, stay awake. It's the president, for God's sakes. Come on, they may sick the NSA on you. Hey, Charlie, stay awake. Notice two quick fallacies. Honestly, the speech, when I saw it, and then I read the transcript, I'll tell you what the European press is saying. You won't hear it here in America, but in the European press is, this was the speech delivered by a college sophomore professor. Utterly disconnected from reality. He almost sounds like a child, like a teenager at times. So our job is to now spread peace and prosperity all over the world? You mean it's not enough to redistribute the wealth here at home? We have to redistribute American wealth and spread it to every other country in the world? And somehow, if we don't lead, no one else will. Dear leader, pick up a paper once in a while. Russia is leading. China is leading the world. Iran seems to have you by the nose. What is this guy talking about? Let me tell you what the Europeans and the rest of the world are now saying. Our allies are saying it. The British are saying it. The Poles are saying it. The Japanese are saying it. We are a power and a nation in decline. And the man responsible for that decline is the dear leader. You're the one that hollowed out our military. You're the one that's been breaking the back of the middle class. You're the one that's racked up the greatest amount of debt in human history. You're the one that in a war in Afghanistan right now have tied the hands of our troops. It's basically a suicide mission to fight for this country in Afghanistan or anywhere else. And you're lecturing us on American global leadership when you're doing everything possible to destroy America here at home? You phony, you fraud. No, honestly, he was lucky the cadets were so respectful and didn't clap. In another age and another time, they would have tarred and feathered the guy. You traitor, get the hell out of here. 617-266-6868, and don't let the door hit you on the way out. Go back to Chicago. Bruce, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Welcome.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear his farewell state of the nation. Unbelievable, huh? Well, anyways, you got to think, Jeff, he's way too smart for us, for one. Just because his speech stinks of contempture, foreign entanglement, treason. I got to go on, but I think the crowd would have given him a little bit more of applause if he had Michelle up on the stage gnawing on an ear of corn to a chain link fence.
Thank you for that, Converse. No, really, honestly, you know what? He should have just said, he should have talked about his picks, who he thinks is going to win the NBA championship this year. I like the dear leader better when he's on ESPN for college basketball, football, and sports. He's a better sports commentator than he is a president. 617-266-6868. John Stradamus, how are you, John?
Great. Here's my prediction. Not only is he weak on the world stage, not only is he weak internally, as we know, he is weak within himself. And one day, he will have a nervous breakdown when he finds out he's not all he was built up to be, because no one's psyche can handle what he's going through.
Bingo. My prediction is this. When the political slaughter, when the political tsunami hits in November, the dear leader's going to have a breakdown. Because for the first time, he's going to realize the emperor has no clothes, and everybody's laughing. Alan, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on WRKO. Shoot, hey, Alan.
How you doing?
Good.
Hey, like Ben Franklin said, I give you a republic if you can keep it. Boy, you got to wonder. One thing about the dear leader that I've come to believe, and this is that these people are community agitators. And it seems like to me, with him, and even Mini-Me, that these people are not happy unless they are pissing the American people off on a regular basis. That's their goal in life, is to just irritate conservatives, irritate Christians. And when we give in to this guy, I mean, he irritates me every day. I just can't help it. I mean, there's times I always try to watch my language, and this guy can have me saying things that are so inappropriate. It just defies logic. But the bottom line is they're community agitants, and they want to irritate the American people or the American right. And he's doing a great job of it.
He's not just, this is the point I want to stress. I can't stress it enough, because the libs have succeeded in one thing. They have brainwashed the American people into thinking, well, maybe the American right can't stand him, and conservatives can't stand him, and Republicans can't stand him. But unlike Bush, he's so loved on the world stage. He's so respected on the world stage. Hokum, BS, poppycock, to balderdash, whatever term you want to use. I'm on the air. I got to be careful. His poll numbers everywhere. The Japanese don't respect him. The Chinese don't respect him. The Russians can't stand this guy. The British can't stand this guy. The Europeans have turned on this guy. Nobody can stand this guy. The Israelis, don't even mention him to the Israelis. I swear to you, the only people that love this guy are the jihadists. And that should tell you everything you need to know. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. I swear to you, if I'm in the caves and mountains of Afghanistan, and I'm a Taliban or an Al-Qaeda guy, and I'm chewing on some camel jerky and drinking some fresh, premium, organic goat milk, I turn around and say, we pray to Mecca 5 times a day. Prophet Muhammad. But the 6th time we pray to Washington, President Obama. Prophet Obama. Muhammad number 1 and Obama number 2. This guy has been the greatest gift to our enemies. since Osama bin Laden. There's no getting around it. No man has done more to embolden and strengthen radical Islam than that con man in the White House. 617, and the cadets know it. And they're getting ready to fight and die for our country. God knows where, in what war. And this guy's talking about climate change and the law of the sea treaty? Seriously, what is he smoking? Anthony, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Go.
Jeff, we all know all too well what he's smoking. Secondly, I think that he just dusted off a pep rally speech that he had from his campaign trail and said, I'll just use this one, so that he didn't have to do anything, because we know he loves not doing anything. And if anybody's surprised by this, I'm just not anymore. You keep on asking, how low will this guy go? Take your pencil, drop it on the floor, and he'll find a lie that he can tell so he can get under it. It's just unbelievable. Everything that comes out of this guy's mouth is just one lie after another. The global warming kooks, I argue with them all the time. They have all this evidence that the climate's changing. This morning when I woke up, I live in New Hampshire, I left my cooler outside and the water from the rain was on it. It turned to ice. We're almost into June. With the warming.
No, I know. Anthony. I was thinking the same thing. It was 36 degrees when I left at 3:30 in the morning to go to the studio. It was freezing. I mean, I almost froze my rear end off. Yeah, Brittany's in my ear, in my headphone. She's saying, Jeff, I was in the Sox games at the Red Sox game last night. She goes, I'm still freezing from last night. Al, where's the warming, for God's sakes? We're freezing up here in Boston. 617-266-6868. Notice when he lies. He's like, Pinocchio, but it's like Dumbo. It's with the ears. Notice how big his ears get. His ears get very big when he lies. Is it just me, or yesterday his ears looked extremely big? I almost thought at one point they were so big, like Dumbo, he was going to fly away. He was just going to fly over the cadets. Just fly away. That would have been nice. If just halfway through he spared the cadets and just flew back to Washington with his ears. His ears flapping. Sly, you're up next. Thanks for holding. Yeah. Hey, I like his ears flapping more than his mouth. Sly, you're up next. Go, my friend.
Hey, bro. Man, it's like a nightmare, man. I feel like I'm stuck in a nightmare. This is unbelievable. I agree with the last guy. There's no depth that this guy won't sing to. A couple points on this. This commencement speech was an impeachable offense. I mean, it was that bad. It was absolutely insulting to the military, insulting to all of our intelligence. I mean, this guy can't help himself. This guy went there and lectured as if he's the almighty, and he was lecturing these people as if they were a bunch of little kids that he needed to learn, and they needed to learn how to act, and what, this was insulting, offensive, and about this American exceptionalism. If you truly believe in American exceptionalism, you don't have to come out and say it. I mean, the way he said that, I believe in American exceptionalism with every fiber in my being. Oh, really? Well, you sounded like somebody that was getting their fingernails pulled out. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I believe in it. This guy is such an evil man. I can't even believe. And I have a hard time containing my anger towards the rest of the country, the other half of the country that can't see this guy for who he really is. I mean, and one last thing, this guy didn't get any applause yesterday, and I mean, is there any question, as to the reason why for the past 6 years this guy hasn't done anything to help, with the VA situation?
Sly, you read my mind. You read my mind. Because he knows, you see that crowd yesterday? They don't like him. The military doesn't like him. The veterans don't like him. Because they don't see a commander-in-chief. They see a con man in chief. Frankly, they see a traitor in chief. They see a Marxist in chief. And so he's been getting reports. It's been 5.5 years. Look, the Washington Post has reported on it. Look, I'm going to do it the next hour. Here, look, okay, USA Today. I don't want to preempt the next hour, but there is now the VA's own Office of Inspector General came out with a preliminary report yesterday. This is front page USA Today. That the delay to care in veterans and manipulating and cooking the books is, quote, systemic throughout the entire Department of Veterans Affairs health system. The delayed care is everywhere and that people knew about it for years. Veterans are dying. He doesn't care because that's not his base. It's like mini-me. Children are dying. He doesn't care because in the end, their base are drug addicts, illegal immigrants, and the welfare deadbeats and the takers.
This is AM 680 WRKO.
7:56 here on the Kuhner Report. Tucci, my bad. Tucci, you're up next on WRKO. Go ahead, Tucci.
Yeah, the Kuhner man.
Hi, Tucci.
Yeah, this is what you get when you elect those liberals all the time. I'm so sorry for America for the kind of leadership we're electing. We'll try as much as possible next time to do the right thing. It's not about it's not about the skin color. It's all about doing the right thing, electing the right people to the right position. And this will help in going a long way. Let's do the right thing the next time. I wouldn't want to say I told you so, but I told you so. I told a lot of people during that time, don't elect this guy in, but like at the end of the day, they did. Now I laugh, even including my wife. I laugh at them. Well, it's one of those things where we have to resolve.
3 more years.
We just take it there.
We've got 3 more years to endure, my friend.
It's too long. Regarding what this guy is going to do to this country, it's too long. I'm telling you the truth.
Thank you for your honesty, and Tucci, thank you for that call.
Yeah.
617-266-6868. That's what you get when you have a community activist doing a man's job. Neil, you're up next. Thanks for holding. You're on WRKO. Shoot, Neil.
Yeah, Jeff, I just wanted to share something last night before I make a comment on Obama's speech at West Point. My son had a school assignment. We had to go into the Boston Public Library, and he had to read the editorial page of a newspaper. The only 2 papers available were the New York Times and the Boston Globe. I was disgusted. Now, as far as Obama's speech...
Neil, I don't want to cut you off, but basically, you know what your son was reading? Pravda and Izvestia.
I believe me, I know it.
I'm serious. It's America's Pravda and Izvestia. So your son learned how to read propaganda.
Yeah, at the Boston Public Library, a public library. But as far as Obama's speech, I want you to remember the movie Patton with George C. Scott. At the very end, there was, the war is over. They're sitting with the Russian generals, and the Russian general makes a speech, and Patton and the rest of the U.S. military just do the hand tap. No clapping, just the gesture. It's disgusting.
No, I know. I felt so bad for those cadets. No, really. Look at they're so young and idealistic and patriotic. Those wholesome cheeks, bright eyes. I mean, they're training, they're willing to fight and die for their country. And you subject them to this clown for over an hour? Running down your own country? Running down America? Running down the Constitution? You can tell. That's why I love people in the military. They're the best of the best. Because they're not dying and fighting for him. They're doing it for us. And to all you vets out there again, God bless you, and I want you to know, you have no stronger supporter, no more staunch champion than Jeff Kuhner here on the Kuhner Report. 617-266-6868. Coming up next, is there one honest journalist left in Washington? Yes. And guess what? He speaks Spanish. I've got that story. Also, new developments on the VA scandal. Don't touch that dial.
News at the top and bottom. Talk in between.
Yes, it is. Thank me very much. Go right ahead, my friend.
This is AM 680 WRKO, Boston.